The floor buffer quit on me at 2:47 p.m. I remember because I checked my phone, thinking about how Ethan's basketball practice would be over in 40 minutes, and I'd have to pick him up even though my shift wasn't done. Damn tenant 5680 always overheated when you pushed it too hard, and I'd been pushing it hard because Principal Hewitt wanted the main hallway spotless for tomorrow's state inspection. Spotless. Like the linoleum at Kilgore High hadn't been scuffed to hell since 1987. I was squatting there by the janitor's closet near C-Wing, trying to coax the machine back to life. You gotta let it cool 10 minutes, no matter what the manual says. I learned that from Bobby Garza, who had this job before his back gave out, when I heard the screaming start. Not the usual high school screaming. Not the girls saw a spider screaming, or the boys roughhousing too hard screaming. This was the kind that makes your stomach drop through the floor you've been waxing for 6 years. I stood up fast. Too fast. My knee popped. The left one. The one that never healed right after I fell off that ladder replacing ceiling tiles in the band hall. The screaming got louder, coming from the cafeteria direction, and then I heard something else. Wet sounds. Tearing sounds. Sounds I recognized from when my cousin Javier worked at that meat processing plant in Longview, and I visited once and decided I'd stick with janitorial work. Thank you very much. My radio crackled. Diego, you copy? That was Belinda from the front office, and she never called me over the radio unless it was important. Usually some kid puked in the bathroom, or there was a situation meaning drugs in the locker room. Yeah, I copy. I kept my voice low even though I didn't know why yet. Lock down. Lock down right now. Don't. Her voice cut out, then came back. Coming from everywhere there. Static. Belinda? Nothing. Belinda, what's coming from everywhere? Through the doors at the end of C-Wing, I could see into the main corridor. 3 kids ran past, their shoes squeaking on the linoleum I'd just finished. One of them was bleeding from the arm. No, not bleeding. Being chased. By Coach Morrison. Except Coach Morrison moved wrong, jerked forward in these stuttering bursts like a video game character glitching, and his jaw hung at an angle that made my stomach twist. I thought about Ethan. Court 3, the auxiliary gym. He'd be finishing layup drills right about now, probably showing off for those girls from his English class who always hung around after practice. Probably not even noticing that something was wrong because when you're 16, you don't notice anything except whether or not Kayla Brennan is watching you shoot. The floor buffer sat there cooling, probably not even worth the $1,200 the district paid for it 5 years ago. I had my keys, always kept them clipped to my belt, 47 different keys to 47 different doors in this building, and I knew every one by feel. Master key for the classrooms, special key for the gym, weird triangular key for the electrical panels that the fire marshal made us get after that inspection in 2019. I ran, not toward the cafeteria where the screaming was getting worse, toward the gym. My knee protested, but I ignored it. The hallway smelled like floor wax and that specific high school smell. Sweat and Axe body spray and desperation. The trophy cases rattled as I ran past, full of dusty football awards and debate team plaques that nobody'd cleaned properly in years. Not since I asked for a raise and got told budget constraints. Diego, you understand. The auxiliary gym was past the main gym, through a connector hallway that always smelled like mildew no matter how many times I scrubbed the walls. I could hear basketballs echoing, that distinctive sound that meant practice was still going. Good. Normal. Maybe Belinda was overreacting. Maybe Coach Morrison had a seizure or something, and the blood was from kids panicking and... A girl stumbled through the doors ahead of me. Whitney Brennan, Kayla's older sister. She graduated last year, but came back to help with JV practice sometimes. She was holding her shoulder and crying, making these hitching sounds like she couldn't catch her breath. Mr. Montoya, she gasped. Mr. Montoya, something's wrong with them. With who, Mija? Talk to me. The substitute. Mrs. Park. She bit Amber. Just bit her during algebra, and then everyone started screaming and Mr. Cordell tried to pull her off, but she wouldn't stop. Another wet tearing sound, closer now. From the main gym. I grabbed Whitney's good arm. Can you run? She nodded, still crying. Then run. Front doors, get out, get to the parking lot. The doors they're locked. Electronic lock. We tried. Shit. The new security system. Installed this summer after that thing in Uvalde. Supposed to make us safer, supposed to lock down automatically if something happened. Supposed to keep threats out, not supposed to keep us in. Okay, you know the culinary arts room? C-112. She nodded. There's a door to the parking lot through the kitchen. Heavy, you'll need to shoulder it hard, but it opens from the inside. The handle sticks, you gotta lift while you push. Go. She ran, holding her shoulder, crying, disappearing around the corner. I heard her shoes squeaking away, and then I heard other footsteps. Shuffling ones. Dragging ones. The auxiliary gym doors were right there. 40 feet. 30. 20. Something grabbed my ankle. I went down hard, my chin bouncing off the linoleum I'd waxed this morning. Before any of this started, when my biggest problem was the floor buffer, and whether I'd have time to grab tacos from that food truck on Henderson before picking up Ethan. Blood filled my mouth, bit my tongue, and I twisted around to see what had grabbed me. Carlos Martinez. Freshman. Good kid, always said, "Excuse me, Mr. Montoya," when he passed in the halls. Played trombone in the band. His jaw was hanging wrong, like Coach Morrison's, and one of his eyes was clouded over white like a marble, and his hands were covered in blood up to the elbows. He was pulling himself toward me, dragging himself by his hands, and his mouth was open, and he was making this sound, this whistling hiss like air escaping from a balloon, except it kept going, kept repeating, and I could see all his teeth. I kicked him, right in the face. His nose crunched and black blood came out, not red, black like oil, and he didn't even flinch. Just kept pulling himself forward, kept making that sound. "Sorry, kid," I said, and kicked him again harder. His grip loosened and I scrambled backward, my knee screaming, and got to my feet. The auxiliary gym doors. I hit them running, slammed through, and the sound of basketballs bouncing stopped. Ethan stood at center court, ball in his hands, staring at me. 6 other kids scattered around the gym, frozen mid-drill. Tyler and Gwyn, Deshaun Jones, a couple of sophomore girls whose names I always mixed up, and Coach Ramirez, clipboard in hand. "Dad," Ethan said. "What?" "Locked down," I gasped, tasting blood. "Right now." "Everybody in the equipment room." "Now." Coach Ramirez started to argue. He always argued with me, treated me like I was just the janitor who didn't know anything. But then the doors I'd just come through started rattling. Pounding. That whistling hiss getting louder. "Move," I shouted, and this time they moved. The equipment room was small, maybe 15 by 20 feet, and it smelled like old leather and sweat, and that specific funk that comes from volleyball knee pads that nobody ever washes. We crammed inside, me, Ethan, Coach Ramirez, 6 kids, surrounded by racks of basketballs and mesh bags of dodgeballs, and those foam javelins they use for track practice that I always find in the weirdest places. I locked the door. Heavy deadbolt, the old kind, the kind they installed back in the 80s before everything went electronic. Thank Christ for budget constraints. "Mr. Montoya," Coach Ramirez said. "What the hell?" "Something's wrong," I interrupted. "With people. With students. They're attacking each other. Biting." One of the sophomore girls, Emily, I remembered suddenly, Emily Cortez, started crying. Ethan moved closer to me, still holding the basketball like it was a security blanket. That's insane," Coach Ramirez said. But his voice shook. "We should call someone. Police. Fire department." "Go ahead." I gestured at the door. "But I'm not unlocking that until we know what's happening." Through the door, I could hear them. Multiple sets of feet now, shuffling, dragging. That whistling hiss multiplied, harmonizing like the world's worst choir. Something slammed against the door, once, twice, and dust rained down from the ceiling tiles. Ethan was looking at his phone. No service. The Wi-Fi's down too. Tyler checked his. Same. Nothing. "Emergency alerts," Deshaun said quietly. He was holding up his phone, showing the screen. The backlight made his face look younger than 16, scared. "Started coming through about 10 minutes ago. Says schools are no longer safe zones. Says students and staff are unaccounted for." "What does that mean?" Emily was still crying. "Unaccounted for?" I knew what it meant. I'd watched enough news over the years, seen enough zombie movies with Ethan on the weekends when his mom had him, and I had nothing else to do but eat microwave popcorn and pretend I wasn't lonely. But this wasn't a movie. This was Kilgore High School on a Tuesday afternoon in October, and I had 6 kids and my son in an equipment room, and something that used to be Carlos Martinez was outside the door. "Means we need to stay quiet," I said. "And we need to think." "Think about what?" That was Coach Ramirez, and God, I'd never liked the man. He'd complained about me to Principal Hewitt twice this year alone, said I wasn't mopping the locker room floors properly, said I took too many smoke breaks even though I quit smoking in 2017. but I couldn't leave him outside. Couldn't leave any of them. Think about how we get out, I said. The pounding on the door got louder, more insistent. I could hear them gathering out there, drawn by our voices maybe, or by smell, or by whatever made those things tick. The whistling hiss rose and fell, rose and fell. Ethan sat down with his back against the wall, still holding that basketball. He was wearing his practice jersey, number 23, his idea of being funny because that's what LeBron wore. And his shoes were the ones I'd bought him for his birthday, the ones that cost more than I wanted to spend, but he'd been so excited about them. We're okay, I told him. We're going to be okay. He nodded, but he didn't believe me. I could see it in his face, the same face he'd had when he was 8 and his mom told him we were getting divorced. When he was 12 and I forgot his basketball game because I was working a double shift. When he was 14 and I told him I couldn't afford the basketball camp he wanted to go to. That face that said, "Dad, you're trying, but you're probably going to mess this up." Maybe he was right. I pulled out my keys, spread them on the floor. 47 keys. 47 locks. 47 ways to get somewhere in this building, if we could just get out of this room. Okay, I said, trying to sound confident. The building has multiple exits. Front doors are electronic, locked down. But there are emergency exits. Fire exits. Loading dock doors. Kitchen door. Told a girl to use that one. Maybe she made it out. The fire exits set off alarms, Coach Ramirez said. Soon as you open them, the alarm goes off. Good. Maybe that'll draw them away. I didn't believe it, but saying it made me feel better. We get out, we get to the parking lot, we get in my truck. Your truck's in the staff lot, Ethan said quietly. That's across the whole campus. Past the cafeteria. Right. Because I was too cheap to buy a parking pass for the closer lot. Saved myself $30 a month. Great decision, Diego. Think. I'd been in this building 6 years. Knew every inch of it. Knew the roof leaked in the science wing. Knew the east stairwell had a step that was half an inch lower than the others. Knew the air conditioning duct in the library rattled if you touched it wrong. Air ducts, I said suddenly. Everyone looked at me. The air ducts. Building this old, they're big enough to crawl through. I know because I've had to pull dead possums out of them twice, and pigeons 3 times, and one time a basketball. I looked at Ethan. That was yours, wasn't it? 8th grade. He actually smiled. Yeah, the access panel's in here. I stood up, wincing at my knee. Behind the volleyball court. Leads to the duct system. We could crawl through, get to another part of the building. That's insane, Coach Ramirez said. Those ducts could collapse. We could get stuck. Or we could stay here, I said, and wait for that door to break. As if on cue, something slammed against it harder. The hinges groaned. Tyler stood up. I'll go. I'm smallest. I can scout ahead, see if it's clear. No, I said immediately. Not happening. I'm not sending kids. Mr. Montoya. Tyler looked at me steadily. My mom works at the elementary school. My little sister goes there. If this is happening everywhere. He trailed off. I need to know they're okay. I need to try. I wanted to say no. Wanted to tell him to sit down, be safe, let the adults handle this. But I'd stopped being able to tell Ethan what to do when he turned 15. And these kids weren't mine anyway. And maybe Tyler was right. Maybe his mom and sister needed him. All right, I said. But not alone. I'm going with you. I'm coming too, Ethan said, standing up. No, Dad. He looked at me, really looked at me. And for a second he wasn't 16, wasn't taller than me, wasn't embarrassed by everything I did. He was just my kid. I'm coming. I couldn't argue with that face. The access panel came off easier than I expected. Just 4 screws, and I had my multi-tool on my belt, because I always had my multi-tool on my belt. Lesson learned from 15 years of maintenance work. Always be ready to fix something. The duct gaped open like a dark mouth. I could smell dust and fiberglass insulation, and that weird metallic smell that old air ducts always have, like pennies and rust. Stay close, I told Tyler and Ethan. Don't touch the sides more than you have to. Fiberglass will cut you up. And if you see anything at all, you come back. We stick together. Coach Ramirez was standing with the other kids near the door. You're sure about this? No, I said honestly. But I'm doing it anyway. I went in first, my flashlight, phone light, really, cutting through the darkness. The duct was bigger than I'd thought, maybe 2 feet by 3 feet, enough to crawl through if you didn't mind the claustrophobia. Behind me, I heard Ethan breathing hard, and behind him, Tyler's quieter breaths. We crawled. The metal beneath us creaked and groaned with every movement, and I kept thinking about Coach Ramirez's words. These ducts could collapse. But they held. We crawled past dark intersections where other ducts branched off, past vents that looked down into empty classrooms, past places where I could hear that whistling hiss echoing up from below. "Dad," Ethan whispered. "Where are we going?" Good question. I'd been so focused on getting away from the equipment room that I hadn't thought about where to actually go. The front office? No, too exposed, too many windows. The library? Maybe. It had one entrance, heavy doors, and I had a key. Through a vent below us, I saw movement. A classroom, Mrs. Chen's chemistry room. I recognized it from the periodic table poster on the wall. 3 students were inside, backed into a corner. And advancing on them, jerking forward in those stuttering movements, were 2 teachers. Mr. Phillips from history and Ms. Kowalski from math. Their clothes were torn and bloody, their mouths hanging open, and they made that sound, that whistling hiss that seemed to come from somewhere deep in their chests. The students were crying, trying to stay quiet, but one of them, a girl in a volleyball uniform, was making these hitching sobs she couldn't control. "We have to help them," Tyler whispered. "How?" I asked. "We go down there, we're dead. We can't just." One of the students broke, started screaming, ran for the door. Mr. Phillips moved faster than I'd thought possible, faster than any human should move, and caught him. The screaming got worse, then stopped suddenly, and I put my hand over Ethan's eyes even though he was 16 and probably old enough to see it. But some part of me still thought of him as my baby boy who needed protection. "Keep moving," I said. We keep moving. We crawled. The duck turned left, then right, then split into 2 paths. I chose left because I don't know, because it felt right, because I was making this up as I went along and trying to look like I had a plan. "Dad," Ethan said, "your phone. You got a signal." I checked. No bars. But I had maps, downloaded maps from all the times I'd used them to find my way around Houston. Not that maps would help us now. Wait. The building layout, I said. I've got photos from when they were planning the renovations last year. I took pictures because I needed to know which rooms were getting new flooring. I scrolled through my gallery, pictures of Ethan at basketball games, pictures of my ex-wife I kept meaning to delete, pictures of the sunset from the school parking lot because sometimes I worked late and the sky looked pretty, and found them. The building plans, blueprints, every room, every hallway, every duct system labeled. "Library," I said, studying the photos. "We keep going straight, take the next right, we come out in the library. There's a vent that leads to the storage room behind the reference desk." "What's in the library?" Tyler asked. "Safety," I said. "I hope." We crawled. My knee was screaming now, sending bolts of pain up my leg with every movement, but I ignored it. Pain meant I was alive. Pain was good. The duct narrowed. I had to army crawl, dragging myself forward with my elbows, and I could hear Ethan behind me doing the same. Through the vents below, I caught glimpses of the school. Empty hallways lit by emergency lights, classrooms with their doors hanging open, a bathroom where water ran from a broken faucet and mixed with something dark on the tile floor. How many of them were there? How many people in this building had turned into those things? Kilgore High had 800 students, give or take, and maybe 100 staff. Add in the after-school programs, the sports practices, the clubs, you were looking at close to 1,000 people. 1,000 people who were now either dead or running or... I didn't want to finish that thought. The vent to the library appeared ahead, exactly where the blueprints said it would be. Thank God for my obsessive photographing of everything. Through the metal grate, I could see the storage room, shelves of books, boxes of supplies, the rolling cart I used to transport cleaning equipment from room to room. Empty. Quiet. I kicked the grate. It didn't budge. Kicked again, harder, and pain shot through my foot, but the grate flew off, clattering onto the floor below. I dropped through, landed in a crouch that made my knee nearly give out, then reached up to help Ethan down. Tyler came last, dropping with the easy grace of someone 16 and athletic. We stood there in the storage room, breathing hard, covered in dust and insulation fibers. "Now what?" Ethan asked. Good question. The library was silent, no whistling hiss, no shuffling feet. Through the open door, I could see rows of books, computer stations, the circulation desk where Mrs. Park usually sat and helped students find research materials for their papers. Mrs. Park. Whitney Brennan had mentioned a Mrs. Park, said she'd bitten a student during algebra. "We need weapons," I said quietly. And we need to barricade the doors. Make this place defensible. Weapons from what? Tyler asked. It's a library. The maintenance closet. I pointed toward the back corner. Brooms, mops, cleaning supplies. There's a saw back there too. I was using it last week to cut down branches that were scraping against the windows. We moved into the main library, staying low, staying quiet. The space felt huge suddenly, all that open floor, all those windows letting in the orange light of late afternoon. The world outside looked normal, empty football field, full parking lot, trees swaying in the October wind. Inside, nothing was normal. We gathered what we could, brooms with wooden handles that could be used as clubs, the saw, a few bottles of industrial cleaner that I knew would burn like hell if you got it in your eyes. Not much. Not nearly enough. The doors, I said. Help me move the shelves. We pushed a bookshelf, heavy, industrial, full of encyclopedias that nobody used anymore because Google existed, across the main entrance. Then another. It wouldn't stop them, but it might slow them down. Ethan was looking at his phone again. The alerts are still coming through. Says to shelter in place. Says help is coming. Says, his voice cracked. Says if you're bitten, isolate immediately. Nobody here is bitten, I said firmly. We're okay. But were we? How long could we stay in this library? We had no food, limited water from the bathroom sink. And sooner or later, those things would find us. They always did in the movies. They'd smell us or hear us or just stumble across us by accident. And then, a phone rang. We all jumped. The sound cut through the silence like a gunshot, shrill and unexpected. It was coming from the circulation desk, the old landline that Mrs. Park used for overdue book calls. I picked it up. Hello? Diego? Diego, is that you? Principal Hewitt's voice, strained and scared. Thank God. Listen carefully. Don't go near the cafeteria. Don't go near the gym. The main building is overrun. We're in the admin office. We've got maybe 20 people here, but they're surrounding us. What happened? I asked. What is this? I don't know. Emergency services aren't answering. Cell towers are down. We're trapped. She was crying now, trying to hide it, but failing. Diego, do you have your son? Is Ethan with you? I looked at Ethan. Yeah, he's here. He's safe. Good. That's good. Static crackled on the line. Stay where you are. Don't try to get out. Just wait for. The line went dead. I stood there holding the phone, listening to the dial tone, and for the first time since this started, I felt truly scared. Not just worried or anxious or stressed, actually scared, down in my bones, the kind of fear that makes your hands shake and your mouth go dry. Dad, Ethan said. Was that? A crash from the main hallway, loud and violent. Then another. Then that sound, that whistling hiss, multiplied by dozens of voices, echoing through the building like wind through a cave. They'd found us. The bookshelf blocking the door shook. Once. Twice. Books tumbled off the shelves, hard covers hitting the floor with solid thuds. Through the gap between the shelves and the doorframe, I could see them, faces pressed against the glass, hands scrabbling at the wood, mouths open and working. Back room, I said. Now. We ran, me, Ethan, Tyler, back toward the storage room where we'd come in. The saw in my hand felt pathetically small. What was I going to do, cut them? Fight them off one by one while more kept coming? Think, Diego. Think. The storage room had one door, the one we'd just come through, and the duct opening in the ceiling, too high to reach without a ladder. No other exits. We were trapped. The duct, Tyler said, pointing up. We could go back. Go where? I interrupted. We don't know what's up there. Could be more of them. Could be. The bookshelf in the main library crashed over. I heard it hit the floor, heard the scatter of books and the whistling hiss getting louder, closer. Ethan grabbed my arm. Dad, the utility tunnel. What? The utility tunnel. Under the library. You told me about it last year, remember? When you were complaining about having to fix the boiler during winter break. I did remember. The tunnel ran under most of the older buildings, connected them via underground passages that maintenance used to access pipes and electrical systems. I'd hated going down there, cramped, dark, smelled like mold and dead rats, but it existed. It was real, and the access was in this room. I kicked aside boxes, shoved shelves, found it, a metal trapdoor set into the floor, secured with a padlock. I fumbled with my keys, so many damn keys, and found the right one. The padlock popped open, and I yanked the trapdoor up. Darkness. A ladder descending into black. And that smell, mold, rust, decay. Down, I said. Both of you. Now. Tyler went first, disappearing into the darkness. Ethan hesitated, looking back at the door where shadows were moving, where that sound was getting closer. Dad, what about? Go, I said, pushing him gently. I'm right behind you. He climbed down. I followed, pulling the trapdoor shut above us just as the storage room door exploded inward. Through the metal grate of the trapdoor, I could see them flooding in. Students, teachers, people I knew, people I'd cleaned up after for 6 years. All of them moving with that jerky, wrong motion. All of them making that sound. We climbed down into darkness. The tunnel was exactly as awful as I remembered. Low ceiling, concrete walls slick with condensation, pipes running overhead that dripped water at irregular intervals. My phone flashlight cut through the dark, showing Tyler and Ethan ahead of me, both of them breathing hard. Which way? Ethan asked. East, I said, trying to remember the layout. Toward the gym. There's a maintenance exit that comes up in the parking lot behind the athletic building. We started walking. The tunnel seemed to go on forever, branching off at odd intervals, sometimes widening enough that we could stand upright, sometimes narrowing until we had to crouch. Water dripped on our heads. Things skittered in the darkness. Rats, probably maybe raccoons. Normal things. Things that weren't trying to kill us. Mr. Montoya, Tyler said. My mom. My sister. Do you think? I think your mom is smart, I interrupted. I think she did what we're doing. Found somewhere safe, locked the doors, kept your sister protected. You'll see them again. I hoped I wasn't lying. The tunnel turned left, descended via a short flight of concrete steps, then opened into a wider space. The utility hub, where all the major pipes and electrical conduits came together. I'd been here twice before, both times with Bobby Garza back when he still worked here, back when I was new and didn't know the building yet. There, I said, pointing my light at a ladder on the far wall. That goes up to the parking lot. We're almost out. Above us, something moved. We all froze, listening. Footsteps, fast, running, crossing the floor of whatever building we were under. Then more footsteps, slower, chasing. Then screaming, brief and awful, cut short. Keep moving, I whispered. We crossed the utility hub. I was almost to the ladder when my phone rang. The sound echoed in the concrete space, impossibly loud. I fumbled for it, trying to silence it, but not before I saw the caller ID, Rosa. My ex-wife. Ethan's mom. I answered. Rosa, where is he? Her voice was frantic, breaking. Diego, where's Ethan? I've been trying to call him for an hour. The school won't answer, the news is saying. He's here. He's with me. He's safe. Thank God. Thank God. She was crying now. Diego, listen, this is everywhere. Not just the school. The whole town. Maybe the whole state. I'm at the hospital, I work late shift, and people started coming in with bites, with wounds, and then they turned and... Are you safe? I'm locked in a supply closet. There are others with me. We're trying to get out, but there are so many of them. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Diego, if you're with Ethan, if you can get him out, you need to run. Don't try to come here. Don't try to save me. Just take our son and run. Rosa, promise me you'll keep him safe. I looked at Ethan, standing there in his basketball jersey, holding that saw we'd grabbed from the library like it was a sword, trying so hard to be brave. 16 years old. Still my baby boy even though he was taller than me now. I promise, I said. The line went dead. Mom? Ethan asked, his voice small. It's okay. I lied. She's safe. She wants us to get out, get to. To where? Where was safe? Get to the country. Away from people. The footsteps above us had stopped. Everything was quiet except for the drip, drip, drip of water from the pipes. Come on, I said. Let's go. I climbed the ladder first, testing each rung before putting my weight on it. Rust flaked off under my hands. At the top was another trapdoor, this one marked, authorized personnel only in faded letters. I pushed it open slowly, carefully, ready for anything. Cool air rushed in, and with it, the smell of October evening, cut grass, exhaust fumes, that specific smell of fall in East Texas. Through the gap, I could see sky, purple and orange and beautiful, and the parking lot beyond, and my truck parked in its usual spot 3 rows back. Empty. No movement. No whistling hiss. Clear, I whispered down. Come on. Tyler climbed up, then Ethan. We emerged in the parking lot behind the gym, the trapdoor hidden in a utility alcove between the dumpsters and the propane tank. The school building rose behind us, all its windows lit with emergency lighting, and I could see shapes moving inside. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all searching, all hunting. "The truck," I said. "Stay low. Stay quiet. And if something happens, if we get separated, you run. You run, and you don't look back." We ran across the parking lot, crouching low, ducking between cars. The evening was so quiet. No sirens, no helicopters, no sounds of rescue coming. Just us and the empty parking lot, and my truck waiting there like salvation. I clicked the key fob. The truck beeped, stupidly loud in the silence, and the lights flashed. We piled in, me in the driver's seat, Ethan's shotgun, Tyler in the back. I started the engine, and the radio came on automatically, tuned to the emergency broadcast station. "Shelter in place. This is not a drill. Emergency services are overwhelmed. Do not attempt to reach hospitals or police stations. Secure your location. Avoid contact with infected individuals. Help is static." I shifted into drive, started to pull out, and something slammed into the side of the truck. Coach Morrison, or what used to be Coach Morrison. His jaw still hung at that wrong angle, and his hands scrabbled at the window, leaving bloody smears on the glass. That whistling hiss was louder now, coming from him, coming from the building behind us, coming from everywhere. More of them were emerging from the school, students, teachers, staff. All of them drawn by the sound of the truck, the movement, the promise of fresh meat. "Dad," Ethan said quietly. "Drive." I drove. The truck lurched forward, tires squealing on asphalt I'd pressure washed just last month. Feels like a lifetime ago now. Coach Morrison's hand slid off the window, leaving streaks that looked black in the emergency lighting. Through the rearview mirror, I watched him stumble, get back up with that wrong jerky movement, start running after us with a speed that made my stomach drop. They could run. Jesus Christ, they could run. I floored it, the engine roaring, and more of them came pouring out of the school. Through the main doors that were supposed to be locked, through windows they'd broken, through emergency exits that screamed their alarms into the empty evening. Hundreds of them, maybe more. The entire school turned into those things. "Mr. Montoya," Tyler said from the back seat. "Where are we going?" "Good question." I turned left out of the parking lot onto Henderson, the road that ran past the school, the road where that taco truck usually parked, and where I'd gotten lunch 1,000 times. The truck was still there, door hanging open, someone's order spilled on the ground, but nobody inside. Nobody alive anyway. "Elementary school," Tyler said. "Please." "My sister." "Tyler." I started, but I didn't know how to finish. How do you tell a 16-year-old kid that his little sister is probably dead? That his mom, who worked at that elementary school, is probably one of those things now? "Please," he said again, and his voice broke. I looked at Ethan. He nodded once, and I saw my own face in his. That same expression I'd had when my dad died and I couldn't afford the funeral I wanted to give him. When Rosa told me she was leaving and taking Ethan with her. When I realized I was going to spend the rest of my life cleaning up after other people's kids while mine grew up without me. That look that says, we do the right thing even when it hurts. "Okay," I said. "Okay." Elementary school. Pinecrest Elementary was 6 miles away, on the other side of town. The route took us down Main Street, past the Brookshire's grocery store and the Dollar General and the Sonic where Ethan worked last summer until he quit because they wouldn't give him Saturdays off for basketball tournaments. Past the gas station, Valero, not Speedway, I always got them confused, where someone's car was parked at Pump 3 with the door open and the gas still running, spilling onto the concrete. The streets were empty. Not deserted empty like a Sunday morning. Wrong empty. Cars abandoned in the middle of the road, some with their engines still running. Doors hanging open on houses. A bike lying on its side in someone's yard, while still spinning. No people. No screaming. No movement except... "There," Ethan said, pointing. A group of them, maybe 20, standing in the parking lot of the First Baptist Church. Just standing there, swaying slightly, their heads turning in unison as we drove past. Watching us. Following our movement with those clouded eyes. "Don't stop," Tyler whispered. "Please don't stop." I didn't plan to. Main Street ended at the highway, Route 259, the one that went north toward Henderson and south toward wherever the hell people went when they left Kilgore. Traffic lights were still working, flashing their regular patterns even though there was nobody to follow them. Red, yellow, green. Red, yellow, green. Like everything was normal. The elementary school sat just off the highway, a low brick building with a playground out front, that I'd helped fix last year when the district needed extra hands to install new equipment. Ethan had come with me, complained the whole time, but still helped me anchor the slide into the concrete because that's who he was, complaining but helping anyway. The parking lot was full of cars, but I didn't see any people. The front doors were closed, windows intact, emergency lights glowing inside. "Looks secure," I said, pulling into the lot. Maybe they locked down in time. Maybe. Tyler was already opening his door. "Wait," I said. "Tyler, wait." But he was running across the parking lot, heading for the main entrance, shouting for his mom and his sister. Damn it. I threw the truck in park, grabbed the saw from the floorboard. "Stay here," I told Ethan. "No way. Stay. Here." I looked at him hard. "Lock the doors. If something happens, if you see them coming, you drive away. You understand me? You drive and you don't stop. Dad, promise me." He hesitated, then nodded. "I promise." I ran after Tyler. My knee was past screaming now, just sending waves of white-hot pain up my leg with every step, but I ignored it. Had to. Tyler was at the front doors, pulling on them, yelling. "They're locked," he shouted when I reached him. "I can't. I need to get in." "Stop," I said, grabbing his shoulder. "Think. You're making noise. Drawing attention. We need to be smart about this." He was crying now, tears running down his face. "She's 8. She's just 8. Her name is Amy, and she has this stuffed rabbit she brings everywhere. And I need to know she's okay, Mr. Montoya. I need to know." I understood. God help me, I understood. I looked through the glass doors into the main hallway of Pinecrest Elementary, and I saw them. Papers scattered on the floor, a shoe lying on its side, one of those small chairs they use in kindergarten classrooms tipped over. But no blood, no bodies, no signs of movement. At the far end of the hallway, a small figure moving with that wrong jerky motion. A child. Couldn't have been more than 7 or 8. "No," Tyler whispered. "No, no, no." More of them appeared. Small ones, teacher-sized ones, all of them moving toward us, drawn by Tyler's shouting, drawn by the sound of life. "We have to go," I said. "Tyler, we have to go right now." "But Amy, if she's in there, she's already gone." The words hurt to say, hurt worse than my knee, hurt worse than anything. "I'm sorry, but we need to go." He didn't move, just stood there, staring through the glass at those things that used to be children. Used to be teachers who taught reading and math and how to tie shoes. Used to be people with lives and families and futures. The first one hit the door, a small one, wearing a faded t-shirt with Elsa from Frozen on it. Her mouth was open, making that whistling hiss, and her hands slapped against the glass with a sound like rain. Then another hit, then another. The glass started to crack. "Tyler," I said, grabbing his arm hard. "We go, now, or we die here." That got through to him. We ran back to the truck, the glass behind us shattering, that whistling hiss multiplying into a chorus that chased us across the parking lot. Ethan had the engine running, doors unlocked, ready. We threw ourselves inside, Tyler in back, me in front, and I slammed it into reverse, then drive, tires squealing as we pulled out. In the mirror, I watched them pour out of the elementary school, dozens of them, small figures and larger ones, all running after us with impossible speed until we turned onto the highway, and they disappeared from view. Tyler was sobbing in the back seat. Ethan was staring straight ahead, jaw clenched. And I was driving, just driving, because that's all I could do. "Where now?" Ethan asked quietly. I didn't know. Rosa had said run, get to the country, away from people. But where? My cousin Javier lived out near Longview, had that trailer on 5 acres where he raised chickens and complained about the government. Would he still be there? Would he still be him? The radio crackled back to life. Reports of similar outbreaks in Tyler, Henderson, Longview, Marshall. All of East Texas appears affected. State police are establishing quarantine zones, but static. Not respond to rescue calls. Do not attempt to reach population centers. Repeat, do not. Silence. I turned off the highway onto FM 2208, a farm road that led out into the pine forest and the scattered houses where people lived who didn't want neighbors. The road was empty, dark, trees pressing close on either side. In the distance, I could see a glow, something burning, maybe the tire shop out near the county line, or maybe someone's house. "There," Tyler said suddenly, pointing ahead. "That church. My grandma used to go there. Little white church with the cemetery out back." I saw it. Small building, white clapboard, steeple with a cross catching the last light of sunset. Parking lot empty. One car out front, old Buick, probably belonged to the pastor. Okay, I said. We stop there. Catch our breath. Figure out what's next. I pulled into the lot, killed the engine. For a moment, we all just sat there, breathing, listening to the tick of the cooling engine and the wind through the pines. Thank you, Tyler said quietly. For trying. For going to the school with me. I'm sorry about your sister, I said, and I meant it. He nodded, wiping his eyes. She probably didn't even know what was happening. That's something, right? She was probably just scared for a minute, and then... He didn't finish. Didn't need to. We got out of the truck. The church was small, old, the kind of place where my mom used to drag me on Sundays when I was Ethan's age, and I complained the whole time about having better things to do. I tried the door unlocked. Inside was quiet, peaceful, wooden pews polished smooth by 100 years of use, cross hanging above the altar. Empty. Safe. We can stay here tonight, I said. Sleep in shifts. In the morning, we figure out where to go next. Ethan was looking at his phone again. Still no service. But the emergency alert stopped. That's either good or... Don't, I said. Don't think about it. We settled into the pews, Tyler in the front, Ethan in the middle, me by the door where I could watch. I kept the saw in my lap, kept my phone light dimmed, kept listening for that whistling hiss that I knew I'd hear in my nightmares for the rest of my life, however long that turned out to be. Ethan came and sat next to me after a while. You think Mom's really okay? I wanted to lie. Wanted to tell him yes, she's fine, she's safe, you'll see her again soon. But I'd promised myself when he was born that I'd never lie to him about important things. I'd broken a lot of promises to him over the years, missed games, forgotten birthdays, not enough money for camps and shoes and all the things he deserved. But not that one. Never that one. I don't know, I said. I hope so. But I don't know. He nodded slowly. You kept me safe today. At the school. In the tunnel. You knew what to do. I was making it up as I went along, I admitted. Still am. Yeah, but you did it anyway. He looked at me, really looked at me, and smiled, small and sad but real. You're better at this than you think you are. The being a dad thing. Something in my chest cracked open, something I'd been keeping locked down since Rosa left, since I realized I was going to spend most of my life apart from my son, since I started measuring my worth in clean floors and fixed faucets, because that's all I thought I had to offer. I'm trying, I said. That's all I've got. Just trying. I know. He leaned against my shoulder, and for a minute he was 8 years old again, falling asleep on the couch during movie night, trusting me to keep the monsters away. The monsters were real now. They had faces I knew, names I'd called for 6 years across hallways and gyms and cafeterias. They wore Kilgore High jerseys and teacher badges and clothes from the Target on Highway 259. But they hadn't got us. Not yet. Outside, the sun finished setting. Darkness came, full and complete, broken only by stars and the distant glow of whatever was burning. The wind picked up, making the pines whisper and the old church creak. I held my son close, kept the saw ready, and watched the door. Somewhere out there, Kilgore was dying. Maybe all of East Texas. Maybe the whole state. Maybe the world. The emergency alerts had said schools were no longer safe zones, had said students and staff were unaccounted for, had said help was coming. But I'd cleaned enough schools to know that when something breaks, when something spills and spreads and gets into places it shouldn't be, help doesn't come fast enough. You have to clean it up yourself, or you learn to live with the mess. Tomorrow, we'd figure out where to run. Tonight, we had this. A small church with strong walls, 3 survivors, and the hope that morning would bring something better than the whistling hiss and the jerking movements and the faces of people we used to know. Tyler was asleep in the front pew, his breathing steady. Ethan was dozing against my shoulder. And I was awake, watching, thinking about my ex-wife locked in a supply closet, and Coach Ramirez barricaded in that equipment room with 4 kids, and Carlos Martinez dragging himself down the hallway, and Mrs. Park biting students during algebra. Thinking about how I'd been worried about a broken floor buffer this morning, about a state inspection, about whether I could afford new tires for the truck before winter. Those problems seemed small now, laughably small. I checked my phone one more time. No service, battery at 47%, emergency alerts still silent. I had photos of Ethan's last basketball game, photos of building plans I'd used to navigate air ducts, photos of a sunset I'd thought was pretty. I scrolled to my favorites. Ethan at age 3, gap-toothed and grinning. Ethan at 10, holding his first trophy. Ethan last month, annoyed that I was taking his picture but smiling anyway because he knew I'd take it whether he smiled or not. My son, still alive, still here, still mine to protect. The saw was heavy in my lap. My knee throbbed. My tongue was still sore where I'd bitten it in C-wing, back when this was just another Tuesday, back when the biggest threat was a broken floor buffer and Principal Hewitt's impossible standards. I'd give anything to have that Tuesday back, to have boring problems and 8-hour shifts and the knowledge that tomorrow would be just like today, that the floor would get dirty and I'd clean it, and the sun would set and I'd pick up my son from basketball practice and we'd argue about where to get dinner. But that world was gone, locked behind those electronic doors at Kilgore High, buried under the weight of all those bodies jerking and whistling and hunting. This was the world now, empty roads and burning buildings and 3 people in a church hoping to survive until morning. I tightened my arm around Ethan, checked the door again, and waited for dawn.